Hi, I'm Harvey Hahn, cardiologist. Last session, we talked about what to eat. This time, we're going to talk about when to eat. And this is a fast way to live longer. And we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting. The big three. What are the big three things in health? Well, first, we all know what big three is in basketball. And this is a big idea where three superstars get together to make a championship team. That happened in Miami. That actually happened in Cleveland. And it worked out both times. But the big three in health are basically diet, exercise, and sleep stress. Those three things really make the huge foundation, huge impact on your health. Now, the one thing that ties all three of those things together is intermittent fasting, and we're going to talk about that. Now, there's a great book called Lifespan written by David Sinclair, and he talks about what causes our body to age and kind of decay, and what things we can do to slow down that process. And one of the big things he talks about is intermittent fasting. All right. Another big concept is called flipping the metabolic switch. When you sleep, you're resting. When you're awake, you're stressing yourself out. When you exercise, you stress out the body, then you recover, you're relaxing. Same thing, you eat and then you fast. All these three things have one thing in common. They flip the metabolic switch. They change the way your body processes food. And in doing so, it makes your body be able to handle stress better. Now, here's a really good study that was just published last year, and it talks about just not eating for 10 hours, just doing intermittent fasting every day for 10 hours. And they had some really incredible results. So basically, if you ate for less than 10 hours, you had a decrease in waist circumference, decrease in blood pressure, decrease in bad cholesterol, decrease in overall cholesterol, decrease in human A1C, and you had a slightly increased amount of good sleep. And this is an amazing study. It was very small, and it was only 10 hours of feeding, not 8. So a lot of people know the popular 16-8 intermittent fasting cycle. But what was really cool in this study is they did not change diet quality. You can eat the same bad food you had before. Also, they did not ask them to exercise more. In fact, they said, don't exercise more, exercise the same. The only thing they changed is the time periods of eating. And most of these people are already on blood pressure medications and statins for their cholesterol. They only dropped their calories by less than 10%. Very small reduction in the amount they ate, but they lost 7 pounds, and they had all these effects basically in just 12 weeks' time. So huge impact. Now, there's been so much interest on intermittent fasting. There was actually a review article in the New England Journal of Medicine, which are probably our most prestigious medical journal. And there's a lot of different things they talked about in this review article. But one thing I want to focus on here is improved performance and stress. Also, BDNF signaling was increased. BDNF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's what we call miracle grow for your brain. It repairs your brain, makes new synaptic connections, makes you think quicker and faster and better. And who wouldn't want that? Now, there's only two things that really work on this. One is intermittent fasting, and the other one is exercise. I don't have time to go through it in this talk, but I recommend this book by Dr. John Ratey, who's actually a psychiatrist, talking about the impact of exercise on test scores, mood, depression, etc. Exercise is very powerful. Intermittent fasting, very powerful as well. Now, why would you even want a better brain? Everyone talks about, I want to get a six-pack, I want to get in better shape, but the brain is probably the most important organ we have. If we can think more clearly, think faster, be smarter, we can probably have a more efficient life, make more money, understand things better, learn quicker. Huge impact here. So fasting is good for your brain. So what's the easiest way to fast? Sleep. Surprising to some people? Sleep is great. The more you sleep, the more you fast. The more you sleep, the more you recover from your workout, and the more your muscles rebuild. Sleep is totally underappreciated. Now, about 1/3 of Americans don't get enough sleep. So this is a big problem for a big chunk of the United States here. Now, sleep duration and myocardial infarction, what they found in this study is people that sleep too little, less than 6 hours, or too much, more than 9 hours, actually have a 20% or 34% increased risk of having a heart attack. Now, what's really cool though is if you can just add 1 more hour of sleep, you can reduce your heart attack risk by 20%. So sleep is good. Making sleep a little bit longer is better and can have an impact on your health. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want to sleep. I can get more done. I'm not asleep. I'm walking around and burning more calories. Well, this is a great study looking at all those factors. So they had 2 groups. One group was kept up all night long, and the other group slept normally. They counted the calories the day before, the day of the experiment, and also the day after. And they also got functional MRI scans of their brain. And they learned a lot of things. One, basically, if you have poor sleep, you're tired, you have low willpower. If you see a donut the next day, you're going to eat it. And also, there is more calorie consumption. And I'm showing you a graph here. The people that stayed up late, what do we do when we stay up late? We munch. They ate an extra 1,000 calories that night. All right. The next day, they also had in their brains, the reward center was activated. And so they want and sought out more fatty, more rewarding food. And probably the idea was, I deserve it. So let's look at this MRI scan on the top. The little yellow dots, that shows activation of the reward centers. TST is total sleep deprivation. That group had highly activated areas in the reward center. So the next day, these are the guys that said, hey, I deserve it, man. I stayed up late, worked hard. I'm going to go get a donut. All right. The other thing here is they actually tracked how much they ate the day before, overnight, and the next day. And the people that did not sleep had about an extra 1,000 calories a day. You start doing that over time, you're adding a lot of weight to yourself. Now, one of the big problems of any diet that we have is you get hungry. This is a very interesting study published in New England Journal of Medicine, and they measure things like ghrelin, leptin, etc., before, during, and at the end of when people had lost weight. So this is a group of people that had lost weight and kept it off for 2 years. And what they found is even 2 years after they had stable maintenance of their weight loss, all those hunger hormones were still way up. So they were biochemically hungry all the time. It's very hard to maintain your diet if your body is saying, I'm hungry all the time. Now, this is where intermittent fasting is different. Now, at the very beginning, when you start fasting, your leptin level goes down. Leptin is one of the signals that tells your brain, don't eat, we don't need to. So when leptin goes down, you get hungry. After you start fasting for a while, though, leptin starts going up. And the leptin starts telling your brain, you're not hungry, you don't need to eat. The other physical thing is, as you fast, your stomach starts shrinking. So you get full faster. It's hard to eat more, and you have a full stomach, which having the empty, hungry stomach is another way that just kills people's diet plans. So you physically treat your stomach, and you biochemically tell your brain you don't have to eat, all through this leptin mechanism, which is great. Now, there's a couple other things about leptin here. If you fast or you go in the cold, you increase leptin. Leptin will go back to your brain and tell yourself not to eat. It's an anti-hunger hormone. Now, like I said before, it doesn't work acutely. It takes some time to get a chronic increase in your leptin level. Now, this is something else that's interesting for the medical people in the audience here. Beta blockers, they decrease your heart rate, but also they block a signaling pathway that turns on the leptin pathway. So these are 2 different mechanisms where beta blockers can actually make people gain weight. So that's something to think about when people are trying to lose weight. If they're going to be taking off one medication, probably think about trying to get them off their beta blocker if that's appropriate and safe. Now, here's some different prescriptions of how to do intermittent fasting. On the left column, you have what we call alternate day fasting. Every other day, you fast. There's the 5-2 program where 2 days a week, you really cut down your calories. The other 5 days, eat normally. And the far right is what we call time-restricted feeding or time-restricted fasting, where every day you take a chunk of time where you eat and a bigger chunk of time where you do not eat, where you fast. And what I recommend is, just like any program, you can't be doing from 0 to 100 push-ups or going couch potato to a marathon. You need to take incremental steps. So maybe in the first month, you fast 1 day a week, you just cut your calories back a little bit in the 5-2 plan, or you do 12 hours, 12 hours. But with each increasing couple of weeks or a month, you make it more stringent on any one of these patterns, and you become and do more of intermittent fasting, and you get a bigger bang for your buck. What I do now, I do 6 days a week of time restricted feeding, and I typically fast for about 15 to 16 hours a day. And at this point, it's very easy to do. Your body gets totally used to it. Now, here are some of the overall benefits I'm going to go through real quickly. Behaviorally, it's easy to implement. You can eat the same garbage foods. You don't have to exercise. You just don't eat during a certain time period. And you can combine this in almost any other dietary program. You want to be vegan, plant-based, you can do this. You want to do another type of diet, you can still add intermittent fasting to this. The great thing is it reduces hunger over time. So the hunger pangs won't kill your diet plans. The other thing is it improves your mood and cognition. One other thing that's really horrible when people are dieting, they're miserable. You don't want to be a miserable dieter. Okay? Physiologic. It reduces your blood pressure, reduces your glucose, your insulin, and your hemoglobin A1C levels. Your sugar metabolism is much better. It reduces your bad cholesterol. Morphometric, reduces your overall weight. Also, you have fat loss, but most of the fat loss you see is the visceral fat loss in the center, so your waist gets smaller. That's the most dangerous, but also that's the fat loss that most people want to get rid of and the hardest one to do. And typically, most of the time in the studies, you preserve the lean muscle mass. One of the big fears I had when I started researching and doing the fasting was that I was going to burn off my muscle before I burn off the fat. And most of the data shows that's not the case. Now, stress is good for you. Exercise, then rest. Be awake, then sleep. Eat, then fast. And basically, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. All right, everyone, live long and prosper. And think like this: eat, sleep, run, and repeat. Train like an athlete, eat like a nutritionist, sleep like a baby, win like a champion. Thanks, everyone. Oh, and fast.